Here.
Gallops.
Here.
Denker.
Here.
Gotsky. Sorensen.
Here.
Split.
Here.
We have a quorum.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gracious and loving God, we ask your blessing upon this meeting, upon all the council members, upon just the people who work for the city and how they try and do their work for the greater good of the whole community. Let your wisdom prevail and let your peace be present. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
Motion by David, second by Doug. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. Now it's time for public comment. This is an opportunity for citizens to come before the council with comments and concerns on any current city issue, knowing no action may be taken tonight. I ask that you keep it civil and respectful and within 5 minutes. However, discussion of personnel or individual members of common council shall not be permitted. I expect you to be respectful, and in return, I expect the council to treat the citizens with the same respect. Before you begin, please state your name and address for the record. We have Peggy Adamski, I believe.
Hi, my name is Peggy Adamski, and I'm here and talking about the one-way street issue that they're proposing for Houston Street,
And your address for the record.
501 Russell Drive.
Thank you.
And I'm opposed to that being a one-way street. As a member of St. Catherine of Siena Parish, we've had that church there for many, many years, and the way that has been organized, that you can drive in from the other part and come and park in front of our church and let somebody off, and then come out and park, and then go either way. It would be very hard to have a one-way street there. And also, we use our area there also for a daycare center that's used there all the time. We use those facilities at least 7 days a week besides. Our church is used sometimes for funerals all the time, and that daycare center is also used all the time. So we are very opposed to, I'm very opposed to that, and I know our parish is very opposed to that. And many times I've let people off, senior citizens, and I let them off in front of that church, and I have to let them off, come up, and let them off in front in the entranceway, and have to let them off and come up on Houston and let them off, so I let them off in front of the door. And if they exchange it, I have to come off the opposite direction, and it'd be very hard to turn around and come off. So if they put that a one-way street, it's going to be very, very hard on our area. Now, at the Boys and Girls Club, it's too bad that they built in that place. You know, maybe they should have thought about that before, because we were there, for a long, long time, and ours was organized before that and everything, and that's what our perspective was before that. And we are very, very busy for, all day too. And I think we should have respect along with theirs as well. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving into accepting informal reports from standing committees and staff. Is there a motion to approve as published?
I'll just note that you can remove the financial report. We will provide that at the next meeting.
Is there a motion to approve all except for the financial report?
I'll make a motion to accept all except for the financial report. I will second.
Motion by Mark, second by David. Any discussion? John?
I just had a question on the building inspection report. I know it says in the packet that there has not been, not an available service cost from MSA yet. I was just wondering, we're into our third month, why there hasn't been an invoice yet, or?
Yeah, there hasn't been an invoice yet. They're auditing through the invoice, and I expect it this month.
Will we get like a monthly invoice, or is it going to be like quarterly?
I would assume it'd be monthly.
Okay.
So it's just getting into the first wave of things here. There was, in my estimation, an audit done to remove hours because of training and other things. So that's what they're just weeding through it, so.
Okay, thank you.
Jolene?
Just want to say welcome to Krista Hill to the Ripon Guardian Ambulance Team.
Anyone else? If there's no more discussion, all those in favor of accepting informal reports from standing committee and staff, except for number 7 financial reports, say aye.
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 Opposed? That is approved. Next is the consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar, which includes common council minutes from 2 meetings, as well as a certificate of appropriateness?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by John. I got the second from Steve. Thank you. Any discussion? John?
Just a question. Why, when we have our council minutes, why don't we print who's in attendance? All the other committees always have attendance, you know, who's present, who's absent.
Good question. Let's see here.
I believe we used to have that in there, and it stopped.
I think so too.
Naomi may be on to answer that.
We'll put her on the spot.
Naomi, are you available?
My assumption is it has to do with the format of this and how we track it. So we can look at adding that in. And then a lot of times there are roll call votes in some of them, but I understand your point. So we will make changes to the format.
Thank you.
Makes sense.
Thank you, John. Anyone else? Hearing no one. All those in favor of approving consent calendar as published, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. All right, moving into our first agenda item. This would be for sewer jetting and televising proposals. Staff recommends accepting the proposal from Speedy Clean in the amount of $47,320 for 52,000 feet of sanitary sewer.
Linear feet, yeah.
Good evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Katie Andy, Assistant Director of Public Works. I'm asking that you consider the sanitary sewer jetting and televising proposals. I received 2 proposals, one from Speedy Clean for the amount of $47,320, the other from Aqualus for $59,280. Last year, Aqualus was our contractor. Speedy Clean is the contractor we use for a lot of jobs around town throughout the year. So both contractors we have used in the past. They both do a great job and present basically the same product. So again, I recommend that Speedy Clean is awarded the job, and the tentative schedule would be in April. And if you have any questions? Yeah.
I just see that the heavy cleaning is For Speedy Clean, they charge by the foot, and then Aqualis charges by the hour.
Correct.
Is there much heavy cleaning that we see? I know we're doing this fairly regularly now.
Right. So last year, the heavy cleaning came to 51.25 hours because Aqualis did it and they did it by the hours, which equaled 2,728 feet. Aqualis last year charged us $14,606 to do the heavy cleaning. If Speedy Clean would have been awarded and would have charged the same amount as what they're proposing this year, it would have came to 2,668 feet. So much less by charging us by the foot versus by the hour. So, any other question?
I have two quick questions.
Okay.
Just as a reminder, we're on a 4 or 5 year cycle for the entire city.
It's roughly a 4-year cycle.
And the other question is, this includes the West Fond du Lac corridor, where we do have some grease buildup problems.
Yes.
Okay.
And we have recently televised that. Anyway, so that's been done, but it will be redone, and there's some areas that along Aspen Street that we need to have done, you know, with the project going on, and that will be in this project as well.
Very good. Julie?
I'm assuming it's still the same recommendation that residents who are in the areas where they'll be doing the cleaning, it's recommended to shut the toilet, the toilet bowls. I bring this up because I do know of someone that a mess was made in their home. There was an announcement made, but what is the plan to sort of communicate on social media or maybe with the city to make sure that our residents are informed?
Yep, so last year we posted prior to having the jetting done on our website, and then we gave tips on how to avoid any kind of issues, and just so that they know what's going on, because sometimes they'll hear some gurgling and stuff going on, and then they also don't know what the truck is down the street, and there's a lot of questions. So we try to, at least ahead of time, let everybody know on the website. Everybody's just gonna keep an eye on the website usually, see what's going, what's new is usually what's going on.
Thanks for on the website, and then I assume that with work with the new
It'll be
communication
It'll
director.
be matched with social.
With social, great. Thank you.
Okay, anything else?
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
Any discussion? Or I suppose we could use a motion as well.
I'll make a motion to approve Speedy Queen.
I'll second.
A motion by David, second by John. Any discussion? None. All those in favor of approving the proposal from Speedy Clean, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. All right, next up is the sidewalk improvement proposal. Go right to Alan for this one.
Good evening. This is pretty much a repeat of the last 2 years. We're seeking approval to, bear with me. Seeking approval to contract the, what's called sidewalk grinding or saw cutting to Safe Step. Safe Step will also, as part of their services, they evaluate the sidewalk in the area that we have selected for this year. They identify what can be ground versus what needs to be replaced. And then staff sends out the letters to all the customers and gives a time for them to self-perform if they so desire. Once that time frame is up, then we allow Safe Step to go forward, and then during the time frame that the letters have went out, we will have secured bids for replacing the sidewalk also, and then have that contractor do the replacements. So that's what we're seeking to do. $50,000 was budgeted again. I have instructed Safe Step to put together a program try to keep that around 40,000, leaving us some money to work with elsewhere in the city as far as things like I know I'm going to have to replace some sidewalk associated with water main breaks. There's some downtown sidewalk that needs to be done. And there was some stuff that we have identified elsewhere in the city that will add to the program this year.
And the 40,000 is just for the grinding, or does that include replacement?
That would include the replacement also, so that'd be combination saw cutting and replacement.
Any questions for Alan? John?
When they do a really deep and slanted grind and you're exposing the inside aggregate, does that at all cause cracking later down the road?
I haven't noticed it.
I was just curious, that's all.
I've noticed some of that in the past, and I've seen, as going through our community here, I've seen some that has been done years gone by, and I've not noticed any cracking in that. They do pay attention to what the remaining thickness will be with the saw cutting, and if it gets too thin, then they mark it for replacement.
Do they ever seal it with anything?
No.
They don't? No. Okay.
Mark?
We've been using Safe Step for a couple of years now, or a handful of years.
Since prior to me coming on board, so.
Okay. Have we tried to, get comparison quotes, or?
I'm not aware of any other companies that do it.
That do it? Makes it hard.
Yeah.
Can you remind me, I know you said that once the letters go out, you said that they'll have some time, the homeowners, if they want to fix it themselves perhaps. What is that time frame?
Approximately 30 days.
30 days.
Yeah. If they tell us they need a little bit more time, we try to work with that. Usually, Safe Step and the contractor that we hire for replacing usually are not waiting at the starting gate to start after 30 days. So.
But they get the opportunity to grind too.
Yes, I have had some homeowners grind their own.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know that I would do it for what they're charging, but.
Dusty.
So how that works, because there was someone in my district that asked about it, that apparently professionally either does it themselves or has a connection. So how that works is, so they would do it themselves, but then it would still be up to this company or ultimately your department if it's not good enough.
Correct. I've been in a position, not in this community, but in a different community where I've had to let them know that it wasn't acceptable and gave another opportunity to do some more.
Okay. And I assume, just like my last question, you'll be also putting this out on social media for the areas?
Yes. Yep.
Super, thanks.
Any more questions for Alan? Thank you. Don't go far.
I don't plan to.
Any discussion or motions for the sidewalk improvement proposal?
I'll make a motion to accept the Safe Step proposal.
I'll second it.
By John, second by Jolene. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the sidewalk improvement proposal from Safe Steps, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. All right, next up is action on miscellaneous DPW facility equipment purchases. Helen?
I didn't look at the packet. I don't, which one came up first? We have waste oil storage tank? We're seeking approval to proceed with purchase of a double-walled waste oil storage tank. Between myself and our lead mechanic, we've done some internet searching. Initially, we were going to go through a vendor on this until we realized how simple it was to get one. You purchase them from any number of vendors. Through discussion, we've determined we'd like to go with a 240-gallon one on casters, so that gives us the flexibility to readily move it to a different location based upon, if we decide to change the shop layout, things like that. Also for disposal, we can roll it right out to the overhead door, and they can pump it dry then. Cost for that, the cost for the one that we would recommend is $3105.37 plus, when I wrote the report, $211 for freight. So this price may fluctuate a little bit depending on whether or not steel prices have gone up since I wrote the report, so I did not check that yet today, so.
Yeah, that was a sale price.
That was, yeah, that, if I remember right, they were on sale at that time, so.
Yeah.
So if we authorize this, we need to give them some wiggle room on purchase, so maybe 10% increase.
Well, it says it was a 20% off sale, so technically if it's full price, we'll have to give a 20% leeway, at least.
Or what do you think, Alan? If we go and say it's 3105.37 plus shipping and it's not, I'd rather give you the 10 or 20% leeway to get that.
If you can give me leeway to $4,000, just in case if they won't honor the sale price, if all of a sudden I find that the sale price was off, I would be making a phone call letting them know that I was waiting to get through council for approval. Often companies will work with you on that.
Okay. I would make a motion to allow up to $4,000, including shipping on it. I hope they won't go that high, but I don't want to keep coming back to like pre-authorized.
It's still on sale.
Is it still on sale? Very good, thank you. I'll be placing the order tomorrow.
I'll second that motion.
A motion by Doug, second by Mark. Any discussion on the waste oil motion? Or waste oil container motion?
Just one question. Do you have a vendor that does your waste oil pickup already?
Yes, we do. I don't know who it is, though.
Okay. That has been a challenge in the community because some of the places that had taken it have stopped taking it.
Well, you have to, for what we do, it's a company that comes in with a large truck and
Right,
back it
yeah.
out.
You're
So
a big batch. Yeah, I get that.
it'd be about 1.5 times a year at this size. We generate about 300 to 350 gallons a year.
If there's no further discussion on this item, all those in favor of authorizing the purchase of the Onken 240-gallon double wall tank for up to $4,000, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That one is approved. Next one is
Next, hopefully is the
fluid storage.
bulk fluid storage and dispensing equipment. We sent out a request for quotes to 3 contractors. 2 responded. Actually, I did send it out to a 4th, the 4th being one of the vendors for, it was either the lifts or the air compressor that we are purchasing. That supplier did not respond either. But there's 3 in the general area that we specifically reached out to. One of those 3 got back to us and said that they would not be responding. The other 2 did. The one that we are recommending is Energetech, if that's how you pronounce it. Used to be U.S. Oil. Used to be part of U.S. Oil out of the Kaukauna, Kimberly area. Their price was less than Halron Oil. So that's what we're recommending.
And this is a storage container and piping?
It's, I believe, 3, if I remember right, 3 bulk tanks, also bulk for antifreeze, and then also hoses from the bulk tanks going out of the bulk room to dispensing reels and nozzles out at a what's called a reel rack that then would drop down for the mechanics to reach up and dispense into the vehicles. And the 2 nozzles for the oil and the hydraulic fluid would have preset meters on them so that the mechanic can dial in how much they want dispensed, walk away, and not be concerned about overfilling or spillage.
And this includes installation, or is that going to be separate?
It does include installation.
All right, very good.
And this one, I did talk to the recommended vendor to make sure that the price would hold pending tonight's meeting, because I had hoped that this would go to the last meeting, but due to the length of time that meeting was projected to take, we moved it to this meeting.
And they're aware that this wouldn't be installed for several months?
Yes, they're aware that probably sometime in August or September is when the installation would take place.
And it's bid accordingly?
What's that?
And the price is bid accordingly?
Yes, yes.
That's all I have. Anyone else? Doug or David?
I take it this is like a money-saving thing as far as,
It's labor savings, it is some convenience, instead of going to the bulk tank, dispensing it into a big jug that has a nozzle, and then walking back over to the truck and then filling it, and then repeat, things like that. So we actually have one dispensing reel right now in the existing shop.
okay.
So.
Would anyone like to make a motion on this item?
I'll make a motion on this item. I believe it's the Energy Tech.
Correct. Energitech.
For $18,650 plus $580 for pre-suttable meters and dispensing nozzles for a total of $19,230.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
A motion by Doug, second by Mark. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the bid from Energitech? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That one is approved. Let's see, if I didn't turn too many pages, we're at building signage.
Okay, this one is for non-illuminated lettering for the monument sign that'll be at the corner of Aspen Street and what we call the Hall Road from the wastewater treatment plant. And then also for an illuminated wall sign over the main entrance doors on the building. Gave you, this sheet right here is a copy right from the set of plans that gave it basically a mock-up of what was envisioned as part of our building plans. That was then shared to the three contractors listed, requested their concepts and price points. And the one that we believe was the most desirable, just aesthetically as well as also from a price point, is from Appleton Sign Company. I believe that was the top one. The next one starts out with the Appleton sign down here. We liked how they framed the red ribbon in white. Hope, I don't know, you guys didn't get the benefit of color copies.
No, we didn't.
Yep.
I think Adam's trying to get it for you.
So while he's pulling that up, the base of the sign, bottom of the sign looks like it's attached with metal brackets. Is that subgrade?
I'm sorry.
Bottom of the
yes,
sign.
yes. That sign will be buried with earth by about 2 feet.
Okay, so all the brackets are underground.
Right, all the brackets are underground.
That's like a precast panel.
It's, yeah, there's a precast panel, it's actually set in place right now. There's a back one that still has to be set. It was designed with a gap between the two, and with the hopes that we would make these internally or backlit signs. Unfortunately, there's just not enough space to get it done. There's enough space to get it done for the initial install, but it doesn't set us up well in the future for future maintenance and replacement. So we forewent that concept, and we're now going with non-illuminated signage, and we will externally illuminate it with some type of ground mount sign.
That's right here.
Does it save some cost too, to do that?
I think in the end, it will save cost because it'll be, we're looking at one light fixture just shining on it instead of a number of individually illuminated letters. So this is the design that we as staff expressed a preference for. We liked how the Ripon, in my view, pops out a little bit better than the other two submittals. And then when we move on to we're proposing to put an internally illuminated with backlighting seal, the city seal, over our entrance. And so that would be white lettering, and then the back would be a red glow. It's actually, the sign actually stands off of the face of the building by a few inches, and then the back side of that is translucent with red lighting so that you get that red little halo glow around it. And Appleton,
You can finish. My question isn't that important.
yes, it is. Appleton Signs proposing to do both signs for a total of $7,470. Creative Sign Company had similar proposals, and we could have had them modify it to reflect this type of design and this, the aesthetics that Appleton Sign offered, but their bid came in much larger. So that's the reason for the staff's recommendation to go with Appleton Sign. Signorama, while they're a quality sign company, their proposals just didn't, we didn't find them as aesthetically pleasing as what Appleton Sign is proposing.
John first.
It is important, you're correct. We have two sign companies in Ripon. Is this out of their realm of what they do, or?
I wasn't aware of them.
Oh, okay, so, I think it's Blue Design and Graphic Sign and Letter on Oshkosh Street.
I do believe this is a
Graphic
different,
Sign and Letter, I think, would have to farm this out.
Well, that's what I'm wondering.
Right, they'd have to farm it out. And Blue Design, I'm not sure what their capabilities are.
I don't think they're doing, like, the backlit illumination and
Yeah.
things of that nature are not what they do,
Okay.
as far as I'm aware.
Could we just give a call?
We can
and make
check.
sure?
Yeah.
So, okay, thank you.
Steve?
Alan, are these metal signs or are they plastic? I didn't notice on the packet.
I believe they're metal. Bear with me here.
I would imagine that the frame is metal with a plastic face,
Yep.
Well, the
Which
or
one?
the backlit one.
the one that's on display right now, that would be a plastic face with a metal can, what they call a metal can. For the monument sign, the ribbon is routed PVC, 2 layers, and then the black signs are routed aluminum.
Thank you.
Julie?
I don't know if I saw a warranty on this. Is there anything as far as, like, I too like the white, how it pops. What if it starts to look bad, or with the sun, let's say it turns an off color? Did they give you a sense of a warranty?
Typically, it's a 1-year warranty. Bear with me here.
On Appleton's proposal, they have a 1-year warranty, 1-year limited warranty on defective materials, and 1-year guarantee on their parts and labor.
Yep.
But I mean, did you get a sense I mean, they knew that this is industrial and,
I can tell you I've worked with Appleton Sign and Creative Sign for decades, and I've not heard customers speak badly or poorly about their experience with either their product or their service. Signorama, I don't have much experience with them, but they are a larger name in the area. I would expect the same there.
and what is the sense, I like also I mean, it's sure is sharp to have the glow around the round sign of the entrance. Is the purpose of that then you don't need a regular light that would sort of illuminate the entrance? Is it just for aesthetics, or is there some purpose to lighting the?
It's just aesthetics.
Is there concern about when it goes out, how to replace it? I mean, I love it too, but what does it cost to,
The front face comes off if the front face is removable, so anything inside that would need to be replaced is readily serviceable.
So maybe it's just a red bulb, it appears like it's a specialized bulb that has to be probably special ordered.
Most likely LED.
Yeah. I believe it-
So we're not concerned, it's minimal extra cost.
I believe both the lighting for the white, for the Ripon, Wisconsin, for the seal itself is LED, and then the backside is also LED. Should get much longer serviceability than signs of past that relied on fluorescent fixtures.
Mark?
Did you say you had a preference to the red or the white halo glow?
We liked the red halo. We felt the white would take away from, at night, would take away from the lettering of the seal.
Less contrast.
Yes.
Yeah.
But again, is there a utilitarian purpose of being able to light up the walkway or no?
No, it's just aesthetics. There'll be the parking lot will have a street light out there, and plus there's some wall sconce lighting on the building also.
Will you have timers on those?
I'm sorry?
Will you have timers on that light?
Timers?
Yeah,
On which light?
on the one that's connected to the building?
You talking about it on the sign?
Yes.
I think the intent there is it'd be on at night. Yeah, I mean,
Oh, they could be on all day.
no, I would, we'll arrange to have a photo eye on it.
Oh, you're gonna have, okay.
Yeah, we'll have a photo eye on it.
All right, well, just making sure, because in the past, they always said you should leave their lights on all day and all night, because it's easier on the ballast and stuff, but this, it doesn't have ballast, so.
I don't know that I've ever heard that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Any further questions on signage? Any motions on signage?
I'll make a motion to approve Appleton sign for the two signs for $7,470.
Second it.
Motion by David, second by Steve.
Motion contingent upon checking with full sign.
Yes, I would like to add that to it.
I'll agree with that.
Okay. So the motion is now to approve Appleton Sign Company's bid upon verifying that the local sign shops cannot do the same work.
Correct. Thank you.
Any discussion?
I'll just add that Alan and I have talked a lot too on the interior. There's going to be need for signage and maybe wall wraps and stuff. And we have talked about using local sign companies for that because this needs to be, I think, more in the wheelhouse. So we'll check with them. But we have thought that through and are going to engage them on some other, historic wrapping type, photos and working with Historical Society to collect old Public Works photos and try to showcase them with some of the old signage of the existing building and the new and kind of do something creative inside. So
Okay.
we'll work on that as well.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving Appleton Sign Company's bid after verifying with local contractors, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. I believe that was the last purchase item.
Correct.
All right. So, we will move on to the ordinance to create section 10.17.010, tall grass exemptions. Alan, would you like to start this?
This proposal is based upon just noting areas in the community that might draw complaints, but would not make sense in staff's perspective to enforce the tall grass removal ordinance on. So I've done this in other communities I've worked for. So basically areas that steep slopes or abnormally wet areas within I guess, thickly wooded, densely wooded areas. Occasionally, you'll get people that'll complain about those kind of areas out of just maybe a neighborhood spat or something like that. And this gives staff the ability to bow out of that and just say, you know what, it doesn't apply. There's an exemption for it.
John?
Question about Liberty Street ditch on the south side. Would that fall into that they don't have to, I know they can't mow it, but it's, you know, they take a weed eater in there.
So you're talking about the storm drainage ditch?
storm drainage ditch.
Yeah, I would view that as being too deep, too difficult or unsafe to try to cut that.
See, that's where you got a problem with that. Because it's just going to grow up and it's going to look.
Are you talking about on the south side of the road or on the north?
South side.
Yeah, the one that is irregular and raveled and,
Yeah.
I don't know how people, you know.
They do it now, but I just don't, except for one person.
Yeah.
I just don't want that personally to overgrow so bad that it looks unsightly.
Steve?
On some of those steep slopes, or what John was talking about, is it possible to see some crown vetch in there?
First of all, crown vetch is an invasive species that the
Well, that's why they used to use it on slopes.
I know, but they don't want you using it anymore because it kills native vegetation.
Oh,
I know the DOT was,
corrected.
I know the DOT is the one that introduced it to the state, but now the DNR is saying don't use it. You can't use it, in fact, so.
John, to your point, before you have your second one here, I would feel that we should encourage people with similar situations to maintain it or plant low-growth vegetation that can handle the water, but we can't expect them to mow it if it's unsafe to mow.
Yeah, they don't mow it. You can't get a mower in there. But as the weeds grow up, they get in there, they hire somebody to get in there with a weed trimmer to knock the weeds down. It's going to look terrible. You're going to get thistles growing in there. You're going to get all kinds of stuff in there. My next question goes into how does this fall into like Horner Park where that slope to the water is steep? Are we going to keep mowing that? And then the riprap areas of Horner Park and even on the other side, the dam where the big rocks are, weeds and things are growing in there.
Well, the design of the riprap, the state would prefer to let vegetation grow up through there. As far as the steep slope goes, we plan to overseed that with a what's called a no-mow grass because it is unsafe to mow. So, the no-mow grass grows to about 12 to 18 inches tall and then it just lays over. And once it's established, provides a very nice look. So that's the game plan there.
Julie?
I am very happy to see some exemptions come into place. I think that when this first went into ordinance, I made it pretty clear that I was against the long grass ordinance. Specifically, a reminder to this council that there was a director of sustainability at Ripon College that for ethical reasons was leaving her grass mow, and then it gave opportunities for people to complain, even though ethically she had her reasons that was good. She's no longer in this community. So anyways, the point is, I think that there are also ecosystem reasons for some of this, and so I'm grateful to hear it. And I do want to ask Chief, because I remember at the time when this was brought forward of the new ordinance, we were told that police is not going to go around looking for this, and not going to try to find areas unless there are complaints. There are some places, of course, where it's unsightly and we need to keep a clean city, and so we want to be, a good-looking city, and of course, if there's complaints. But can you confirm that it's not like police are going to be patrolling looking for overgrown grass if there's not complaints?
Yeah, I'm not sure you want me to talk about this, but I will. Your exception for no mow May has become a problem. Because we get properties that don't mow for the entire month. And the lawns get unsightly. We get complaints and we have to tell them it's no mow May, we can't respond to that. So yeah, we get lots of complaints about not mowing, weeds, all those things. So, yeah, I was not a big fan of the no mow May because of the complaints that it's generated because of that. But we basically don't address any mowing issues in May. And by the end of May, lawns are sometimes this tall. Because there are people that don't, at least some of them, maybe once a month or once during the middle of the month will mow it, but there's others that just allow it to go the entire month, so you end up with properties, residential properties with lawns, and I'm not exaggerating, knee-high before the end of the month. So I have no issues with these exemptions that are listed here. I understand John's issue with the particular property that he's mentioned because we've tried to address that in the past, but that's been an issue. Yeah, as far as the grass and mowing, we deal with a lot of those during the year, during the summertime. Whether it's noxious weeds or lawns that are out of control or people just don't take care of the properties, so we address those. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess it does, and obviously, I'm sorry to hear that no May causes issue to our department. Obviously, I don't want the department spending time on things like this when they have much better things to do. I think it's sad that people in the community would contact the police on this if it's good for the environment. I just think it's sad that as a society, we are, to hear the police saying this is a concern if it is good for the environment, at what point are we going to say, this is good for the environment, and as humans, part of the environment, that's important. Anyways, so I'm grateful for these exemptions. I'm sorry that people are causing concerns for the chief. It sounds like it's less about the ordinance and more about people's concerns over aesthetics versus the health of a community, quite frankly.
Mark? I've got a couple kind of procedural questions that maybe Lud will chime in on. So it's a complaint-based, or it's a citizen makes a complaint to the police department, who then chooses whether or not to issue, I believe they do a warning letter first, is that correct?
Yep.
So you get a warning, anyone that would be in violation would get a warning, and then they have their time to rectify, and then there would be the citation afterwards. So I think, I understand there's extra work and there's extra enforcement that has to happen under that, but it is, I think that's a fair process, and I just wanted to kind of lay that out. But I do wonder if maybe for the exemptions, because there already is a notice and a rectification process, instead of saying the following shall be exempt, we could word it, the following may be exempt, which then allows hopefully a dialogue or a conversation to open up where the property owner can say, well, this is the challenge that I have with being in compliance. Is there, to the mayor's point, what can we plant? Is there a different way that we can do it without having to mow or weed eat? Or for the exemptions, the shall wording basically means if it fits these exemptions, it's not going to be addressed. I don't know if that's a beneficial change or if that makes it harder.
I think you're going to end up with discretion in any event. Obviously, take, for example, the natural wooded lots of tree lines where the distance between trees effectively prevent mowing. There is a subjective determination you're going to be making. And if we make that determination, then they shall be exempt. So there's still going to be a layer of common sense before you get to the shall. But if you make it may, now we're all over the place.
That's too great.
We got to give them, right, it's too great. You got to give them some sense that if you're within these parameters, you can proceed with the idea that we're not going hunting for you. Obviously, within that, what's 25 feet from the edge of a designated storm, we get out a ruler, see how far that is, those kind of things. The shall is necessary if you're going to do it. Otherwise, don't do it in any respect. That's my opinion.
Okay.
So just want to clarify one thing with the rise to run ratio. You're saying that over a 1 foot horizontal, you have to go 3 feet drop.
Correct.
That is extremely steep.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that that ditch on Liberty Street does not hit that ratio.
Is it 3 feet horizontal and then 1 foot
Yeah,
drop?
rise to run, 3 feet rise to 1 foot run.
That's steep.
That is very steep.
That ditch would probably fall right into that.
For race fans, that's Talladega.
All right, go ahead, John.
My question is, are we making too much out of this? I mean, do we have a lot of complaints in wooded areas with trees, stream beds? Obviously, I have a problem with Liberty Street with the ditch, and so do the homeowners there.
So I think there's, 99% of grass in the community areas would not fall under this.
Right.
It's very select areas or areas where there are either, significant obstacles, safety concerns, or just you're asking somebody to mow in a wet area, or it's not, they get stuck, right? There's just, and a lot of times it does become right? So I don't think that this is a very common area. It does not address, the noxious weed stuff. So if somebody does have thistles or a noxious weed growing through in those areas, they still have to maintain the property, right? There's still that layer of it. This is a very small area. It doesn't just apply to the city, it applies to private residents. So there are areas the city maintains.
So it's not just about aesthetics, this is about the health of our environment. Thank you for not doing that.
So, and then, same park, there's a drainage ditch towards Spring Street. It just migrates up there and it never dries out. So the way I look at it, in my experience, is that it makes it difficult for staff to tell someone to comply with an area that might be questionable on private property when the city itself is already taking that liberty and not maintaining it because of, just time efficiencies.
Steve.
I know I'm gonna take flack on this, but a couple goats and they stake them out and take care of all the weeds.
I'm not having anybody offer.
Katie's got goats.
There we go.
Anyways,
Liberty
that
Street.
would buy places do that.
No, Steve, you're right, there are places, but I think when you contract with those kind of things, there's minimum acreages that they have, so they're not just coming and moving goats around to bite off just one area. I mean, they want a whole area to roam.
After it for a number of years so that the root system for the buckthorn die.
Right.
And then, little known fact, the seeds for the buckthorn can last many, many years in a dormant state, and then they can still sprout up, so.
I would only highlight the point that Adam made, that this is grass, and we're looking at tall grass, not noxious weeds.
Right.
So noxious weeds are a separate category and will be addressed separately. This is about maintaining tall grass.
I mean, what we're talking about here, that as far as the grass growing, it's not going to impact the neighbor. I mean, it's not like you're talking about.
Exactly.
You can't have the weed and then everything just it goes to seed and blows into people's yards.
Right.
That's not a problem here with this, correct?
I don't believe so.
Okay. And beauty's in the eye of the beholder anyway. Sometimes it looks good to have the long grass by that.
I move to approve the ordinance to create section 10.17.012 just weeds.
Motion by Jolene, second by David. Any further discussion? All right. Next item is the ordinance to amend Chapter 15.28, street trees. Alan or Adam, who wants to start?
Alan can start.
Alan.
All the lengths of street in this community that does not have sidewalk. And often what happens is when there's an absence of sidewalk, the abutting property owner treats the entire that we call the terrace up to the pavement as their own, and they will install, they can and have installed landscape improvements in there that includes large trees that weren't planted as part of a city program nor approved by. Today, we are now in the midst of removing several hundred failing trees, and unfortunately, I did not identify this issue until we're well into our removal program, and we have been removing trees that there is no evidence that the city ever planted it or authorized any type of planting program for its existence, but yet we're paying for the removal of trees that were planted by a property owner, sometimes to the extent of $2,500 to $3,000. And there are
In that 15.28.100 section, correct?
correct.
So yeah, so it's a pretty long amendment, but it's amending the whole section, and the highlighted areas are what, they're darker. 15.28.100 would be where the changes are.
So there's no change to the approach for public land, which would be like our parks or city hall, any of our city properties. Urban roads are defined as a road that has sidewalk. And it maintains the policy that any tree planted between the sidewalk and the pavement is the city's responsibility. Rural roads, on the other hand, is the absence of a sidewalk. There, we will still maintain responsibility if the tree is planted with the approval of the city. And I am developing an application process, and then we will then track these and document this on the city's GIS tree app. I have, as part of our tree planting program, we have planted some trees along what we would classify as rural roads, and I have gone to the extent for those trees, documenting that it was planted as a part of a tree planting program, and I put the month and the year that it was planted in there. That way, my successors down the road will know that tree was planted by the city with authorization, and thus becomes part of a city urban program, or urban tree program, versus if there's other trees that do not have that documentation, then that would be the abutting property owner's responsibility.
Steve?
Alan, my question is, if it's in the city right away, wouldn't it be part of the city to take care of it?
Should it be part of the city's responsibility to take care of it if it wasn't planted?
If it's in the right of way?
If it was planted without permission, should it be the city's responsibility?
Well, that squirrel that planted it 100 years ago, what are you gonna do? You're gonna let the tree rot and fall in the street? That was my question. The owners are gonna say, well, that's within the city right of way, and, not that I'm not on your
Right,
side.
I understand.
The point is
There's two different scenarios. You got the forested situation where maybe a road got carved in and a right-of-way got dedicated, and those trees were existing at the time that the road was put in place. That is one scenario, and we do have that in this community. The other scenario is that it was physically planted as a sapling or a balled and burlap 1 to 2 inch diameter tree by the property owner. Fast forward a few decades, all of a sudden, property owner sees that it's going to cost them $2,000, $3,000 to remove it. Oh, it's in the right of way, it's your responsibility.
John?
Question for Alan. If we have an unimproved road, and I'll just say Liberty Street,
Okay.
why would we, like you said, you documented the tree that you planted, the city planted, why would we plant it in that right of way? Why wouldn't we ask the homeowner, could we put it on your property?
The ones that we have planted and documented since I've come on board were requested through the Request a Tree program.
Okay.
By the property owner. I have not purposely gone out to, we do not plant trees in front of people's homes unless they request a tree. Otherwise, any other trees that we've been planting have been focused in our parks.
Okay, I just know, for an example, there is one on the corner of North Street, or Church Street and Liberty that, I mean, it was just planted last fall, right under.
Yep, it was requested by those power lines are going away too.
Yeah, but there's still something underneath, and maybe a sidewalk someday, but,
Yes.
okay, I was just wondering why.
And if I remember right, we tried to avoid where a future sidewalk would go.
Okay.
So the other one that I'm aware of is on West Street, across from the cemetery.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That was my first year, and the one you're talking about was last year.
Last year, yeah, okay.
And I don't want to be in a position of telling people that do not have a sidewalk that they're ineligible for the requested tree.
Any other questions or discussion? Jolene?
It is a little bit complicated. You name some areas how it can be. And what if the home property owner can't afford to remove it and it becomes a danger to the public? How does that work?
We have, in this same ordinance, there's an abatement process. And then we would issue them an order to take care of it. And if they don't, then we take care of it and we bill them for it. I've been in a previous community, there was actually a private tree. It had to have been an 80, 90-foot tall tree that was dropping big limbs, caused in excess of $20,000 damage to the neighbor's house due to failing limbs. They wouldn't remove it. We issued them an order. They just called me, we can't afford it. Okay. So I went to the administrator and said, can we fund it and have them pay us back? And that's what, in that case, that's what we did. We developed an agreement and they paid us back over the course of 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
John?
I like this ordinance change. I think it only makes sense. It helps with tree roots for curb and gutter, and down the road cutting, like Alan is saying, it's the city's responsibility. I think it's a good idea to change that. So I'd like to make a motion to amend changes to 1528 street trees.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's got a motion by John, second by Steve. Further discussion?
And you are going to work on an application? So people
Yes,
can-
I have some on my desk right now that I'm going to pattern them after. I just got to get it back to the top of my pile.
Okay.
I know that spring planting's coming up and
Yeah, everybody's going to get out and...
Yeah.
Okay.
If there is no more discussion, we'll have a roll call vote.
Iverson?
Yes.
Schatzinger?
Yes.
Reamer?
Yes.
Gallops?
yes.
Denkert?
Yes.
Sorensen?
Yes.
Split?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Our last agenda item is an ordinance to amend section 12.21.020 one-way streets to include Blossom Street. Adam?
Is it 12.21 or 13.21? Because the title and the text are not.
I don't know what
I
happened.
do believe the proper number should be 12, or 13 rather?
13.
13. So there's a typo in the agenda. So it's ordinance 13.21.020. Thank you, Mark.
Let me make sure that's,
Pull up the ordinance. Check the text.
Yeah, it certainly should be 13.
13.21. 13.21, I apologize.
One-way streets?
No.
Yep.
13.21. So basically, here, I can show you. The current ordinance is that Blossom Street, 13.21020 Blossom Street is established a one-way from Watson to Ransom. The concept here is establishing a one-way from Blackburn to Houston. So tonight, this doesn't necessarily, this just deals with the one-way aspect of this. There is a project then that we will need to implement as part of the one-way to make parking and signage and crossing enhancements. So taking a step back, the Plan Commission authorized the site plan for the Boys and Girls Club. One of the kind of contingent or review aspects of it was the crossing and sort of some of the parking in this area. So that goes back about 2 years ago, and we've met with Boys and Girls Club, the police department, DPW, and have talked through some of the crossing enhancements that are required mostly on Blackburn and Blossom. So we plan on making those improvements as the season moves to spring and summer. In addition to that, there's been communications with the Boys and Girls Club regarding just the flow of traffic on Blossom Street. Currently, it is a two-way street with parking on both sides. If anybody has been there to drop off or to anything on that street, it is a narrow street for two-way traffic and parking on both sides. And the Boys and Girls Club has requested that there be the addition of bus loading and unloading on the south side, so where there's kind of the red, to allow for more bus, loading and unloading, because their site will be difficult to accommodate multiple buses being loaded and unloaded in their parking area on their site. In addition to that, there's the idea of a crossing enhancement because the Boys and Girls Club has purchased Discovery Preschool and operates that and plan to use both facilities and had children walk between these two. So having a crosswalk here, and this says there's parking, general parking along this south area. We will have, areas around there to ensure that there is not, the kids you can see kids on and on and on. To have two-way traffic and parking on both sides, I think the consensus is that it will cause safety concerns and traffic congestions and further backups in the area. We have provided notice to both the main property owners on this street. Both have access and areas off Blossom Street to exit and enter their facilities, and I had a sit-down with the father and Betts Olson today regarding this from the church. I'm not going to speak 100% for them, but they did not object to the idea of a one-way because of the idea of the traffic going both ways, and that some of their concerns, certainly with accessible parking and the design of some of this parking, even adding or enhancing the bus loading and unloading, because there are times they have buses as well. They just asked to be brought into the conversation as we implement a plan. So while this plan may change a little bit, they have spoke to me. We sat down for a half hour today and went over this plan, and there was not an objection to a one-way street from the father and from Betts Olson. Certainly, We understand that there are periods of time where the church will have higher volume levels of traffic. Those generally don't necessarily coincide all the time with the Boys and Girls Club if it's on weekends. And they just want to ensure that there is parking on the street, ample parking on the street, mostly from Saturday to Sunday, and then having their busing. We can talk about adding accessible parking on Houston, although these are not traditional accessible spots, right? And they're not really accessible. We have on the south side currently, toward the end of Blossom, a series of handicap accessible stalls. They are not accessible. They are just reserved and generally speaking, you know, are not always utilized. But moving that and having, you know, drop-off areas in front of the church, something we certainly can accommodate and work with them on, and we will engage their leadership as we move forward with this. So this really comes down to a decision about the one-way tonight, and then the execution of the plan from there on out. If this doesn't go forward, certainly we have to make some other adjustments that we will bring forward to the Public Works Committee if we remain a two-way, including likely the elimination of parking on one side. And that may have different ramifications. So ultimately, in working through this with the police department, Public Works Committee, reviewing it all, Boys and Girls Club, and talking to the church, I believe there is sort of a general consensus that a one-way is the best option to address the concerns moving forward with the Boys and Girls Club and the need for parking for Discovery as well as the church.
John?
I'm going back 2 years, but on the Plan Commission, when we approved the site plan, we were, I believe I was told, or we were under the impression buses were going to pull off of Blossom into their property to unload the... So with that said, do we need to go back to the Plan Commission and change their site plan?
I don't think you're going to be able to change their site plan at this point when the project is under construction and being completed in the next 3 months.
Okay. Next question, does this require a public hearing to change that one way, to change it to a, you just...
This is an ordinance change just like the two others you did.
Is there a question of should there be a public hearing? Is that a question?
That's not, well, and Adam pointed out that he did meet with the church, the two church leaders today, which is good, but my point there is they got the public notice yesterday, so they had to scramble to get things taken care of.
Yeah, and we talked about that.
Yes,
This wasn't supposed to be on this agenda. We just wanted, it got put on at the last minute, and so we notified them. So we've had ample time to review and talk it over with them. And, you know, in my general consensus moving forward, we have a better understanding of who to contact and how to handle that situation moving forward.
Okay. And my only concern is in front of the church itself, if they have to go from, and I'll just say from left to right now, as we're looking at the screen, if they pull up in front of the church with an elderly person, that person has to get out into the road versus coming right to left, and then that person can get out onto the sidewalk. The church, I know they're going to deal with it one way or the other, but I think Peggy had answered, or Peggy Oshkovi had that same concern.
There's an entrance right in front of the church, and you're going to have to drive around to get into the church. You're going to have to drive in. They're not going to be able to get into the entrance.
So there's also Houston Street that can act in the same way as the old turn did, right? There's also the opportunity to unload, and there's areas around there that people can load and unload.
I want to make it clear. This is my personal opinion. It has nothing to do with the church. You already stated that the church does not object to the one way, so I don't want to get anybody thinking that I'm speaking for the church. I'm just looking at my notes.
Yeah, to be honest, it's almost like they would have to have the one-way coming from Houston Street. It's like you're eliminating coming off of Blossom Street into the church, because to your point, if you're dropping someone off, that's why you pull up there, and then it's not convenient because you want them to be as close as they can to the door. Theoretically, if they have, mobility issues, that's why you're doing that.
I don't know that that's necessarily true.
No, and I think the thing you need to keep in mind there, if you're talking about unloading buses on that street, if you change the one way going the other way, now you're going to be unloading buses every single day. Those kids are going to be stepping out into traffic instead.
Yes.
Because those doors, those kids are going to have to step out into the road, go around the bus to get to the curb. Do you understand what I'm saying? Versus every single day.
Yeah.
Versus,
Occasionally.
that's why we're talking about going this way. That's one of the concerns that we brought up. If we make it going left to right here, west to east, now those buses, every time they unload, are unloading onto the curb. Because that's the issues, there's several issues with that. So yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to be large enough to get multiple buses in there at a time. So that becomes one of the problems. I think you're not going to be able to get multiple buses into that for unloading. So what that's going to then create is a backup, and there's not very much room between that entrance and Blackburn Street. And what I'm concerned about is traffic getting backed up onto Blackburn. That's one of my concerns. So by doing this, you now have ample room for that bus loading or unloading, and it gets them off from Blackburn Street, and vehicles can still go by up that.
Before you sit down, isn't this a one-way though, right now, the opposite direction?
No. Nope, that's a two-way. Between Watson and Blackburn is two-way.
Okay, I guess, yes, because I have that regularly, but here it says it's going to be a one-way street from Watson.
Watson to Ransom, it's wonderful.
Up the hill by Mapes
Watson
Hotel.
to Ransom.
Why is that relevant to this discussion?
It's just the ordinance.
It's in the ordinance.
Oh, I'm
It's
sorry.
already in the ordinance.
It's already in the ordinance.
So Watson to Ransom Street is one way going up.
I mean, we should.
Yeah, I think it's yet to be seen. I mean, obviously, there's going to need to be a turning radius to get it. There's also parking, and there's also traffic from parents, right, of picking up. And I think the idea go on site if it's a smaller bus or if they use a van or something of that nature. But generally speaking, the challenge will be is there's not a ton of room between their parking that was required on their site and to fit a bus in and back up and an exit if you're parked in their parking lot on site. So they will direct likely most of the bus traffic to go to the load and unload zone on the street.
Steve?
I have a question. This obviously went to it looks. How can it be approved like that? There's other buildings in the city that wasn't approved because of parking and green space. The other thing would be, I'd like to hear from the public what people really think about this. I mean, this is all last minute. I got a few contacts on my phone. Peggy here said something. I'd like to hear more before we say yes or no tonight about this, how the feels about this. And the other thing would be, if you are going to go with a one-way street, couldn't you have parking on a Sunday for the church on both sides of the street instead of just one side?
Well,
That's what this is, Steve. This is parking on both sides, all the time.
Well, it's all like there was a loading zone that you couldn't park at all.
No, that's just an area where it's been identified for a period of time during the day, bus loading and unloading.
Alan?
Just thinking about the loading zone, we can have signage made that would limit the loading zone to just being Monday through Friday during whatever hours the Boys and Girls Club say that is needed.
Yeah, and I'll just mention too, I think, Adam mentioned this, but if you leave that road, and I had kids go through the Catholic up there, school, or CCD, and to pick kids up there, if you've ever been up there, when there are vehicles parked on both sides, you kind of have to weave your way to get through there. So if you leave this a two-way, you're going to have to eliminate parking on one side. There's no question about that, because it's not going to be safe. Because right now, as it is, if there's vehicles parked on both sides, you almost have to, and two more vehicles are coming towards each other, you almost have to weave between each other to get through there, because it's narrow. And my concern about that is you now have the possibility of having kids cross between Discovery, what was Discovery, and the Boys and Girls Club. You have buses unloading kids here. I think to leave it two-way is going to present you with some challenges and some safety issues that I'm not sure that we want to be dealing with. That's my concern.
And I can just add from a plan commission perspective, and you look at this site and how it was built out and how it was submitted. Looking back on it, it was a B1 district. Okay, so B1 district is a downtown zoning. So there are certainly some flexibilities within that zoning code to avoid parking or to have lot coverage at a certain point, right? So the zoning of this parcel and this project was reviewed, and they met the zoning code requirements for a B1 district to develop the site as they are developing it.
And if I'm not mistaken, B1 allows for 100% coverage and zero parking?
Correct.
I just want to point out, or maybe redirect, we are specifically looking at making the street a one-way. We are not making any determination on where parking can be or how parking can be right now.
That will be a separate plan after this
separately
measure.
But then I also wanted to kind of agree with the chief that as a driver, if you're driving on a two-way and you're focusing on a vehicle coming towards you with parking on either side, you are going to be looking at not hitting that vehicle and not necessarily looking at not hitting anything that's on the outer edges of your travel lane. So I think just from maybe the pedestrian and travel lane ability, or having a safe and clear travel lane for any type of traffic on this, that making it one way is probably better for traffic flow. And I imagine that's what Chief has found with looking at it, and what administration has found, is that just looking at how a vehicle is going to move through this space and controlling it and making sure that everyone understands where the trouble spots might be, it seems that it's probably the best way to do it, because it is a much narrower street to try and have parking and 2 lanes of traffic.
I will just add that I've sent my children to Discovery, and 3 or 4 times a day that street is a nightmare to navigate. It is very dangerous. John, then Doug.
I kind of lost my thought, but going back to what Steve said about the parking, I know when Plan Commission approved it, there's like 0 lot line clearance that you need in the business district. You can get away with a large building with no parking. We were told that they were working with the church to possibly use the church parking lot, so that was part of the process for the plan approval. But I just feel sometimes we weren't given the 100% truth about it, and it went through too quick at the Plan Commission. And I know it fits all the checks and boxes and everything for approval, but I just wish it would have been thought out better with that bus. And I was under the impression that a bus could fit in that driveway. And maybe it still will, but I'm disappointed if it doesn't, put it that way.
I'll just add, in talking to the Boys and Girls Club, some of the talk about parking on the site and, employee parking like that, that's not a reason for keeping parking on the street. They have found ample parking in a neighboring non-church property.
Okay.
Because there's been, so.
If I recall the discussions and the plans for everything, to my recollection, how they've built the parking lot is how it was on the plan. The only thing I think they possibly changed is the marquee sign placement. Is the only change that not a small, it was a small change to where the placement of that sign was. Is the only thing that I've noticed different from the site plan. Doug?
As I recall, when I was on the plan commission at that time, when they brought those plans forward, we had, I believe, several meetings about this. They met all the requirements. They made the changes that we requested, to my recollection. It's been now, what, 3 years now? I don't know where I heard it, but it was very early on that the church was not going to play with them on that parking lot. So I think at that time I already knew. I believe we knew about that parking lot, and they were going to have to come up with some other ways, but they met all the requirements for the B1 district. I don't believe that they were hiding anything, other than it was maybe quite working out the way they thought, and we've had to make some adjustments, but you do that with almost any project. Thank you.
Jolene?
Because I drive this regularly since my home is right near this area, and I go the other way so often, but I understand for safety, and I can be, it sounds like there are very good reasons to make this a one-way that I understand, but just so we're doing our due diligence. So the options an option would be that you take away parking on one side, right? If you kept it both ways. Again, Chief mentioned there's still some issues there. Could you consider widening it? Is this at all a possibility that the street could be widened? Obviously, there's cost involved in that.
Yeah, I would not recommend that for multiple reasons, snow storage, cost. You're probably looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars in a road reconstruct just because you want to maintain a two-way street where there's a far more viable solution. Alan?
The sidewalk is close to the back of the curb on both sides, and the sidewalk's only 4 feet wide on both sides, so there's minimal to be gained, maybe 2 feet of width.
Okay, I'm gonna do due diligence, and then I assume it already would have been proposed if it was possible, but for the buses to pull into that parking lot on the side and have the kids walk on the sidewalk, there's reasons why that's not.
What parking lot?
The parking lot on the side is owned by the church, and Boys and Girls Club has not been given access to that parking lot.
Well, to park there, and I know the reason.
To use it.
I understand that. They're worried about wear and tear. They're worried about it being used when there's funerals. There are many reasons why. My assumption is now they put a blanket statement not to use it because they had concerns about people parking there when they wanted to use it. But was that at least talked about? Like, is that when you met with the priest and Betts?
About what? Use it? Well,
like if they want to keep it two-way, so we just heard from someone, and if indeed the church comes back and they now want to keep it two-way, they might have to give in on something. Would they allow it coming in through that parking lot? Or did they stand firm to say that parking lot?
That's not for us to determine. Ultimately, they want to maintain access to parking on the road, on both sides. That was their preference. And they understand that the narrowness of the road, if you keep it a two-way, likely will result in a 50% reduction of parking on the street. So I think that is the biggest concern, as well as for bus loading and unloading, which they would use this bus loading and unloading zone on Wednesdays when they have a bus dropping off. Those were the points that we talked about today in terms of this plan and how they would accommodate it and it would work for their needs.
But just so I'm clear, so they want it, so they're okay then making it one way. That sounds great. It sounds like it's safer in general. But the reason why they're not unloading out of this parking lot is because the church won't let it, not because that may not be a good option.
Well, I think if you're gonna take kids and make them go over there and walk all the way back, right?
I don't know where the entry, like,
That's-
is there not a door
the
over
entry,
there?
there's not an entry there. You're
There's not,
making them
okay.
walk down the sidewalk, then half the block down into the entryway of the building. They have put in ingress and egress area across the parking area, the driveway, to then access the bus loading and unloading area. So it's a straight shot into the building, right in front of the building. So you don't have kids wandering, going, you know, left, right, any which way. You kind of control the situation right in front of the building.
I will just say that I do not want it to become a one-way, but I think it's a smart thing to do, and so I think it's clear that there's not really other options. So I understand. Also, I've been through that when it is actually dangerous right now, as quite frankly, it's dangerous right now as a two-way, when there's lots of people parking on both sides and driving through.
John?
I'm fine with the one-way. I know everybody put their due diligence into it. I like the way the kids can get off on the Boys and Girls Club side, and it's safer that way. So I'm more or less fine with it, but I'm still going to be voting no against the one-way just because of the whole thing of it's the wrong, in my opinion, it's the wrong spot for the Boys and Girls Club. It's just going to cause all kinds of trouble on Blackburn Street, Blossom Street, and it's going to branch out all different ways. So that's my last comment. Thank you.
And I'd still like to hear from the public how people feel about it. I know that it's a safety issue, but I still like to hear from the residents of Ripon how they feel before we vote yes or no on this, so.
The other thing we're still not too sure what we're doing after this, correct?
There will be a firm plan brought forward to the council.
But right now, we don't have it. So why can't we just wait and vote on this when we have the entire plan? Because right now, everyone I've talked to does not like the change, obviously. People don't like change. I get that. But I just see other options like no parking Monday through Friday would take care of the problem. Having off of Blackburn, if you have a spot there where the parents can pull in with their cars and let kids out the sidewalk the other way. I don't believe it's thought through yet. So before we decide to make this one way, I think it needs to be planned to the end and then vote on it.
So
I won't be voting for it either.
Dave, I'll just say that we have been talking about this for over a year internally, right? As we have learned this and gone through the direction from the Plan Commission to review the traffic and the safety crossings of this plan. So we've been talking about this for a number of years internally as staff.
Yep.
We have talked to the Boys and Girls Club. We have to begin planning this out. While some things in here may change, generally speaking, you know, there is multiple needs here that are being addressed by this plan that can work. And generally speaking, this plan will work for everybody that is around this area with some minor tweaks, right? But generally speaking, in talking to the people that are most impacted by this, this is what they're requesting. Ultimately, too, we know there is a bigger concern at a public level of we don't want to see it go one way or keep it a two-way. Right? But there will be a direct impact to the people most impacted by this, the people who are using it for their business and for the service of this community.
Yep.
So every change you make, there is a reaction, right? So while this may not be perfect, we can't predict what will happen. So we may learn in practice, right? As well as this gets implemented if the council chooses to go that direction. Generally speaking, I would say that we have spent a lot of time developing this. It has been reviewed by the Public Works Committee. The Public Works Committee has said, yes, we approve this plan, right? At the Public Works Committee, we talked about bump outs. We talked about other options for crossing, right? So we have talked about this on multiple occasions. And so this is what's in front of you to start with a one-way. Certainly, if there are, like I said, changes to this overall plan, from a request from the church or somebody else that's impacted by this, yes, okay, we can work with them on that. We've talked to them about that. But ultimately, we have to have some predictability in the next couple months here to plan out this project. Alan and his crew have to plan it out. We are going to be under a timeline to get this done. So I understand the concerns of everything, but I will just say that in defense of all this, we have talked this through on multiple occasions with multiple people and have had input.
Mayor, this is Ellen. May I speak?
1 second, let Dave finish up.
All right.
Okay.
The only thing I can say is, once the entire plan's in place, I don't see what the rush is tonight to make this a one-way. I mean, if we come back next month and you got the full plan, here's exactly what's going to happen, here's how it's laid out, here's where the buses are going to pull in, here's what we got, we can do this, then I'm all set. I mean, we're not going to throw up signs tomorrow saying one way. So why not wait until we have the final plan in order to do this? I don't understand piecemealing this part and then coming in next month with this part. Let's just wait until, I'm going to vote against it until we find out the whole plan. I'm sure it's going to be a good plan, but what's the rush to do this tonight? Now we're stuck with a one-way street, and now we're going to work with that. Maybe we got a better way with a two-way street. I got all kinds of ideas in my head on ways of doing this for a two-way street that'll make the church happy, and I believe it'll make the Boys and Girls Club happy and keep the traffic happy. So I will be voting against it.
Ellen?
I'm in favor of this change, and I'm in favor of it for a different reason. 3 years ago, before I became a member of the council, I was approached because negotiations had broken down between the Boys and Girls Club and St. Catherine of Siena. At that time, I was a parish member. The parish would not enter into any discussion with of the Boys and Girls Club about using the parking lot because of an issue that was clearly of a hubris nature. And when those conversations broke down, the Boys and Girls Club had to change what they were doing, which then led to us having to move the Little White Schoolhouse out to Fond du Lac Street. I was told by the administrator of the church at that time that that was not her problem. She didn't have a problem with us moving a National Historic Monument, nor did she want the Boys and Girls Club to be using the church's parking lot. Now, you can say that the Boys and Girls Club should not have built there. That is water under the bridge right now because they have built. We need to accommodate the children who will be attending that. Now, as a person who drives an 84-year-old woman to church when she feels well enough to do it, you can come in from Houston up in front of the church, let them out, go out, turn a left, back onto Blossom, and then go park. This isn't brain surgery. This is accommodating a generational issue for the youth of this city, which is an absolute necessity. People have been calling for this for decades. And because of the church's unwillingness to talk about this 3 years ago, this is where we are today. And if Father Robel, who was not here at that time, is willing to work with the city on this, I say we go for it. We put on our big people pants and we do what we need to do.
Thank you. Doug?
My turn. Yes, so I'm sorry, Dave, and everybody else. One way is the right way for this. It makes total sense for the bus to pull up, let them out, to go inside the building on Blossom Street there, because as we all just heard, and I already knew, the church at that time refused to negotiate that parking lot, and so therefore they had to change the entrance. And so that's why it's a little bit different than what it should have been, but okay. So now it's one way. I think we should vote on that tonight. I don't see that there's any other real option that for safety, and we'll have to talk and revisit about parking on both sides. That's just the way it is. So I think it should be one way.
Jolene?
I understand the reasons here. I can see why, even if the Boys and Girls Club wasn't there are times when that road gets congested. I can see in the future why I would vote for the one-way. Tonight, I'm with Dave. I don't see a reason why we shouldn't have the full sort of project. I understand, I just want to hear, and also I am concerned, even though I know that internally this has been talked about for about a year, that the church did just get notice, if this is what's true, yesterday, one day. I mean, if this is voted on at the end of this month, I don't see why it needs to happen tonight. But I can imagine it makes sense to have it a one-way.
Adam, how long would it take you to, because of the details referenced by a couple of the council representatives?
Honestly, I don't think that this plan will change much from what is here.
But laying it out,
we can
black and white drop offs, the details.
Yeah, that's all I'm asking for.
Everybody can look at.
I'm not saying I'm against
No, I don't.
turning it into one way. I'm saying we just need to see the whole thing.
Where the drop off
Probably is the
is.
best way.
And Dave is right on that. At least post it to the public what's going to happen. Just sending a letter out or hearsay is not good enough.
You want to finish your statement?
No, I don't have anything to say.
Okay.
I have nothing to contribute.
John, then Doug.
Okay. As much as I'm opposed to it, I do think we need a vote tonight for the one-way. And then, if it is passed as the one-way, I believe then the church and the Boys and Girls Club need to figure out where the handicap accessible parking is, where the regular off-street parking is. Let them take care of it then. As long as the church, Father Chuck said, they're willing to work with the city on it. There's only 3 people involved. It's Lee Miller on the corner of the church and then the Boys and Girls Club. So I don't think we need to drag the public in for opinions on it.
Everybody's being very honest. There's been a very good discussion. Obviously, the worst thing that can happen is somebody makes a motion and it gets voted down, okay? It's just reality, okay? So if the administration wants a vote on it this evening, I'm urging that every council representative understand the impact. If you make a motion to make it one way and you vote it down, that's a mistake.
Why is it a mistake?
Because you will have sent the message to the community that you're not willing to consider it as a one-way, and all the plans that we have been putting together will send a message that don't do one-way on that street. We got other ideas, okay? So that's where I'm asking the administration to consider, and I think John is an important consideration here. He already stated on the record he would not vote in favor. We can't send that message, given the gravity of this project. I think Ellen has very eloquently stated the necessity, and the chief has been very clear about the safety concerns. Maybe we don't have it all laid up there on the thing, and that's what I'm saying. If that's the consensus of the council, let's get it on a handout and say, this is where the buses are going to pull in. This is how many hours they get to park. There's going to be the right to park except for Saturday and Sunday. It's free for whatever. Whatever all that is needs to be summarized.
Point of information, if this were to be postponed, how many days until we meet again would there be to make a plan?
That's what I asked
When's
the administrator. I didn't quite get the answer. A handout with,
I can expand on what's presented tonight.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to
That's all I'm
say
looking for.
Then this is what has been developed.
What is the date of the next meeting then? Be
24th. I believe.
One sec. Before we move on, I just want to address, I'm not going to sway your vote here. I just want to say, I would hope that you don't vote one way or the other because you don't like where the Boys and Girls Club was built. It is already built. We have to deal with the fact that it is there. We have to work with that being there and make a community as safe as possible around it. I know you have another point, but I'm going to come to Doug and come back.
Quickly, to your point, if you remember, I voted against it on the plan commission. So that's where I still stand.
But I hope you...
For that location.
Right.
Period.
I remember that, I understand that.
Yeah.
But it is there now. We have to do what's best for safety for our community. I hope you consider that when you make your vote. Doug?
Okay, I really don't understand why we all think there's going to be a different or better plan. That one way, they could pull out of Blackburn, go up toward the Boys and Girls Club and the Catholic parish there, and they could turn into that parking lot right there by the church. People can park in there, they can go around, they can come around on Houston, like as Ellen said, and drop off their loved ones right there by the front door, and then they have to make another turnaround and park someplace else into the parking lot or however. There is not going to be a better flow, and right there it's labeled bus loading and unloading there on Blossom Street. So what are you looking at where the handicap parking is going to be? I'm sorry, that's a minor consideration right here. The big things are right here. Delaying this vote that went through the Public Work Commission, and they were like, oh, we're going to let the public weigh in. The public don't live around here, only the Catholic parish, the Boys and Girls Club, the house on the corner there, and I guess maybe even the Episcopal Church across St. Pete's across the street. Most everyone else, this is not going to materially affect, they can go around it. And they could go back around. I don't see that this is something that someone who lives way on the other side of town is going to have to weigh in here. We should do this tonight. We should all vote for it. We should all move on and then put the particulars in at the next meeting. The Boys and Girls Club is opening up in a couple of months. This needs to be done tonight so that we can move forward. Thank you.
Alan?
I was just going to point out, it's my understanding we will be working with the church and the Boys and Girls Club to develop a plan for the street. I think what I'm hearing is everyone understands this needs to go one way for the safety of everyone. In the end, it is very likely that months or a year after the first plan is fleshed out, there's going to be identified nuanced changes that have to be made. So no matter what we bring to the council 2 weeks from now or 4 weeks from now, chances are it's going to change. So I don't know that we're accomplishing anything by forcing a design as a product in order to get a vote. The fact is your staff is going to work with the church and with the Boys and Girls Club to come up with the best game plan that we can come up with at this given point in time. The use will ultimately determine any changes that need to be made after that.
I'd like to make a motion that we table this until the next meeting. And the reason is so that the public is notified. Like Dave was saying, there's more of a finished plan. I agree, one way is probably safer for them. But the parking issue is a situation that can be discussed. It can be talked through the church for this next month or this next couple of weeks coming up anyway. I think we.
Point of order.
Thank you.
Point of order.
Hold on, Ellen. Hold on 1 second, Ellen. Steve, I would like to make a request that you adjust your motion to change the word table to postpone discussion.
Okay, postpone. I shall say postpone instead of making a black and white vote tonight. So postpone till the next meeting.
Ellen? Your point of order?
My point of order was to postpone and not table.
Thank you. Is there a second to the motion to postpone?
I will second it.
Discussion on the motion to postpone discussion till the next meeting. I have a roll call vote for the motion to postpone.
Iverson?
No.
Schatzinger?
Yes.
Bremer?
Yes.
Gallops?
Yes.
Dankert?
No.
Sorensen?
No.
Split?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-3.
We will resume discussion at the next meeting. Project updates and staff reports. Start at the back. PD, Public Works.
I'll just give you an update on the building. The office is, the exterior walls are framed up and sheeted. They're starting to lay the masonry for the exterior walls for the office area at this point in time. The roof framing continues to go in. Thursday, I believe it is, another large crane is being delivered to handle the longer span bar joist for the parking garage. It's in. I'm told that it will take them no more than 1 day to set all those. I found that surprising. In our last project update meeting, barring any very inclement weather, their game plan is to try to get this to a point that the building's enclosed and the floors are poured by the end of this month. Fingers crossed.
Thank you. Naomi, do you have anything for us? If your microphone works?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, good. I was trying to work on it before because I couldn't answer you. We do have the April 1st election, the spring election that is coming up, and our in-person absentee will start Tuesday, March 18th in the clerk's office, and that is from 7:30 a.m. until 4 p.m., and we will have this all posted on the website as well as social media.
Thank you, Naomi.
That's it. You're welcome.
Adam.
So you have my report. Library project is moving forward with the design. They'll be presenting, PRA will presenting to the library board this month, and they will follow up with a presentation on April 8th to the Common Council. The State Highway project, we have released an RFQ for utility design and engineering services, so that will be reviewed and likely on the March 24th agenda. In addition to that Hamburg-Henny project, March 4th, we'll have the bid for that project. TID 16 is being created. There will be Plan Commission and Joint Review Board meetings. They are scheduled for March 19th. If you want to see the project plan, you can review it on the city's website. The Fire and EMS study, PA is looking to present, I believe, on March 24th at this point. So that meeting will have a lot of agenda items on it. Be prepared for that, and we will share the report when the final draft is available to the council. And then the community fireworks, we have signed the contract for July 3rd with J&M Displays to shoot off 333 individual fireworks at Murray Park on July 3rd. So we have secured that date, and that is my announcement on that. That's all I have. If you have any questions, let me know.
Any questions for Adam? Thank you, Adam. All right, I have no appointments this evening. Just want a general message, be kind to your neighbors. Think of their feelings before you do things.
Go ahead. I do, for you. Today I received a letter from a member of the Historic Preservation Commission, his resignation. I turned it into Adam. I'm sorry to see him go. I do have copies for the other people that want to read his reasons for leaving. And again, I'm sorry to see him go, but we will be needing another person on historic preservation.
Thank you. Any comments or future agenda items from council?
Backyard goats. Just kidding, after today's conversation. this should have been a little bit earlier with staff reports, but maybe it's not appropriate to talk about, but I saw some chatter on social media about individuals going around to doors asking about how they're voted, and they wondered if it was legit. Is there anything that's been, any concerns? Okay.
I'm not aware of anything.
People look like it was Illinois plates and asking like, how do they plan to vote? And they thought, are they trying to case our home? I've heard comments online.
I know I did get a flyer around my door handle that somebody left for one of the campaigns this week.
Nothing concerning to,
But
okay.
I haven't seen any complaints calling to us.
I guess if you're listening and instead of posting it online, actually make a phone call, right, to the police if you have a concern.
I do know that statewide, there are outside canvassing companies coming in for primarily Supreme Court candidates.
Okay.
So it's probably nothing, but something good for the public to be aware of.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn, Mayor.
I'll second.
Motion by Doug, second by David. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned at 9 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you.